Hello everyone, Brian Jennings here, the Millennial Dragon, the psychic scientist. There is now roughly 100 subscribers to this channel, and I consider that some sort of milestone, not much in terms of the world's perspective, but I'm very grateful to the support that I am being given, have been given, will continue to be given, because this thing is just, it's so ugly. I would never wish this on my enemies, right? And Quentin's, he's like laughing his ass off right now, going, ha 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 ha. That's what happens when you don't do what I want in the movies. That's what happens when you don't play the game that the movie people play, right? Because he's a sick, dangerous man, right? So, right? What I'll say, I'm about to read a section from this book, and then I'll get back with reading from my novel. What I'll say is that if anyone who's actually interested in like understanding, however meagerly, it's in no way exhaustive, it's in no way comprehensive, understanding what is occurring to me, I invite you to watch the video that is titled "A Plea to the Pope." Right? And it is in no way exhaustive, right? But it's as ugly as it gets, right? And the reason that I put that on there, right, despite knowing that on some level it's an invitation for someone to say, oh, I want Quentin to think I'm cool, right? And so that's the other side of this campaign, that someone could start doing the things that he does in an effort to gain his good graces, right? To gain William Morris Endeavor's good graces, right? And so that's right. And this is a sad reality, right? That this is like that's right. That they've opened themselves up by allowing this thing to ferment and fester as long as it has to really palpably sick people, to ill people, in an effort to say, I'm cool just like Quentin. See, look at what I'm prepared to do, right? So you watch that video and you'll see what it's about. And again, right, he stole it all from me, right? Because he's never understood the game. He doesn't know what's occurring, right? So we're getting to this point in the novel, right, where we're about to really get into it as far as like why, right? We're already in the 300s. Why he revealed to me that he doesn't have a daughter, right? So for months, it was, oh, I have this daughter, right? And then after I started remote viewing the girl, her name is Allison Tarantino, Instagram handle @AllieJean_3 or 4. I don't know, does she know him? Does she not know him? It doesn't matter either way. She's the first bitch who pops up. So I suspect he doesn't know who she is, right? But when I printed out her picture, right, and I made a sigil similar to this one, right, with Ari for her, and I went off after about 10 days of that, he said, again, it degenerated into ridiculously awful things that you would never allege your daughter does, right? And when I persisted, he eventually said, oh, I don't have a daughter, right? And so that was around the end of January, right? And so I started coming clean immediately. That's when I wrote Fish, right? That's when I wrote the Discovery Institute and said, this guy is evil. He wants me to die. That's all that's ever been occurring. I want you to show me everything that you received that involves me. Just what involves me, that's all, right? And they both said nothing. Both of those institutions said nothing. And silence is its own answer, isn't it? Silence tells me that they are in league with Quentin in some way, right? Because if it was just my letters and the truth was just that I'm mentally ill, right? Then the truth would be that I'm mentally ill and they would have no problem sending me the letters that involve me, right? And so that's my mother coughing, and I know that none of you mind. So, right, he rather than look at everything that's good around him, right, and say, oh, okay, this is my life, like I have it good, right, I have a beautiful wife, right, I have a beautiful life, right, he thinks that it's more appropriate to compel me to madness and suicide. I'm not clever enough to conjure 130,000 words, right? That's not, I'm not smart enough to do that. That's not, no. I'm not insane enough to do that. No one writes like that. Insane people don't write that. Insane people write all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, right? That's how that works, right? This is a concentrated, focused effort of autobiography transmuted into a novel, right? That's what this is, right? And so we're talking about it because it's just evil. You know, it's just evil, right? So after I revealed myself, right, and I started talking about it online the first time, right, and it's all in there in the fucking a plea to the Pope, right, when his evil degenerated into real sick black magic. I said, okay, no, we're good. You take, right? I'll take everything down. This is why we're still talking about this now. Right? Because I took everything down and said, no money required. Right? You don't have to pay me anything. You keep my scene, you keep everything. You just fuck off. You just leave me alone. Right? Easy. Right? And then, right, after about a week, he said, I want you to sue. Right? And so after that didn't move as fast as he would like, right? He started torturing me again while I was working. I took a job sorting trash. Right? I could have been a movie star, right? All the way up there at the highest level, right? Took a job sorting trash, right? Because I'm moving on with my life, right? And I don't want to work with that man anyway. He's an evil man, right? And so the last thing that I'll say, right? And after he did that, I said, okay, it's done. Like, it's done. We're talking about it every day because you're a sick, evil man and you're going to do degenerate things to me as much or as little as you want because you're a sad guy, because you don't see anything that's good in your life. You don't see that beautiful goddess that's your wife, right? You don't see those two beautiful children, right? You only see right behind me, Baphomet, right? You see your satanic occultism, right? As some sort of talisman of power, right? And it's a yoke enslaving you, nothing but, right? So that's why we're talking about it now. That's why I put everything back up, right? And that's why I've written the Pope. My letter will be arriving soon. But I'm going to read a short passage from this book that I'm reading. That to the mind of the Pythagoreans, the divine, unity, the one, or the first principle of all things, was a something diffused throughout the whole world, but that they held it to be in itself unknowable, only revealing itself in mundane things as that which reconciles all to friendship, causes them to harmonize, adapts them to each other, and thereby renders them knowable. It manifests itself as the source of all being and of all truth. And Cicero says, God, with the Pythagoreans, is the soul of which is diffused through and governing in all things, and from which our souls derive their origin. Right? So, in that one sentence, you have summed up my worldview, which is also the worldview of all ancient sage mystery traditions of all time. Right? Right? That there is a source which is unknowable. Right? And it must degrade itself. Right? Corrupt itself into multiplication and division. Out of one comes two, right? And out of two comes three, right? So, right? This is the greater mysteries, right? That all things emerge from a singular origin, which is diffused everywhere, always, right? And so this is what I've been saying in all of my videos, that all, right? That everything, that perfect expression of love, so divine it is incapable of manifesting itself, right? Corrupts itself through pressure, through contracting itself, contracting the hologram, which is its physical shadow, until it becomes so dense in electric resistance that it can no longer remain in inert space and erupts into incandescence as matter, right? This is what happens with all psychics, right? This is what is happening with all psychic phenomenon, clairvoyant phenomenon, right? That they're connecting their conscious awareness, right, with the divine conscious resonance, which exists everywhere perpetually in a state of rest. And we'll touch more on that.